This is your Barbados Today morning news update for Thursday, June 6, 2019. Thanks for joining us. I'm Carol Williams. Relief is on the way. Acting Minister of Education, Senator Lucille Moore, says work was being done to remedy some of the pressing issues at the school meals department in Lancaster, St. James. This came after workers walked off the job on Monday, complaining of lack of fans, constant breakdown of equipment, dysfunctional extractor fans, and asbestos. The acting minister met with the employees and representatives of the bargaining agent to discuss their concerns. She tells Barbados Today that while some issues were being worked on, others will likely be fixed in time for the start of the new school term.
We were shown some other things that were of concern, and so that will now take technocrats, experts. I'm certainly not an expert in the area of building, and certainly not expert in the areas that were raised in terms of concern, but certainly once the solution is identified, then a proper remedy will be put in place. But as I said, we have the schools will be closed shortly, which then gives us then the opportunity to be able to address the issues, not just there, but throughout the system, certainly ones that we're able to address.
Still with education, Barbados Union of Teachers wants in on the process to overhaul the education system. President Sean Spencer made the demand in a statement issued days after Prime Minister Mia Mottley announced looming changes to the sector, including the abolition of the common entrance exams. Spencer is clear that the union isn't opposed to reforms, but said there is a history of poor communication and lack of respect from the ministry. As a result, the union is urging the current administration not to repeat the mistakes of their predecessors. The president is urging the authorities to establish and regularly use recognized means of consultation with teachers' organizations. It's now official. A cool-down party will be held after Grand Kadooment with involvement from the National Cultural Foundation, NCF. NCF CEO Carol Roberts-Reefer yesterday announced that the body is partnering with Twisted Entertainment to stage an event at Kensington Oval. She described it as a win-win for all involved.
But ideally, the bands are coming down the Spring Garden Highway, and at the bottom of the highway, the music trucks are diverting, and those bands who want to take up the offer will be able to come into Kensington. Their revelers will have the specific armband. It's not open to non-revelers on Spring Garden. And they'll be able to come into Kensington. They would have been pre-allocated, if they so desire, space for them to set up whatever they require, the resources to feed and, take care of their revelers. And the component that we're interested in is that after all that is done, we're going to put on another layer of entertainment for the revelers. Now, Twisted has its own clientele, its own exclusive clientele. So there'll be no tickets sold for the event, but their clientele will also be hosted at the venue in Kensington.
Damien Sorrento of Twisted Entertainment stressed that persons who don't jump on the road for Grand Kadooment won't be excluded.
Yes, all the revelers from the Kadooment bands will be welcome. They will have the specific armbands that will gain them entry into the venue. But there are also people, for whatever reason, may not have jumped for the day, and they're not excluded from partaking in the experience as well. So there'll actually be tickets sold, and people can pay at the venue.
In advance.
But in advance. Right. At a different entrance from where the revelers would enter. And obviously security and everything would be top notch, and we'd ensure that people that only had tickets pre and the revelers would gain entry into the venue.
As gun crimes continue unabated, a local expert continues to point to the link between drug use, drug trafficking, and violence and gun-related incidents. Head of the Criminal Justice and Research Planning Unit, Cheryl Willoughby, is joining calls for residents to be more proactive. She was speaking at the Wilkie Cumberbatch Primary School's Drug Abuse Resistant Education DARE program yesterday.
There's a strong correlation, as I said previously, between the drug trade and the illicit firearm trade, which not only affects individuals and families, because they do affect not only the individual, But you will find that when young people are before the courts, not only are they impacting the lives of their family members, but they're also impacting society in general. And if we look at it on a macro level, we must understand that when a society is plagued by criminal activity, especially a country like Barbados that is so dependent on tourism and foreign investment, it has a financial and economic impact on our well-being.
There's regional and international news after this short break.
Barbados Today, news you can trust.
Turning now to Bermuda, where there's confusion about the status of a hotel development. Reports indicate there has been no work on the Ritz-Carlton Caroline Bay project for several weeks. And there are concerns the project has wrapped up with monies owed to a number of subcontractors. We get more from Bermuda Broadcasting News.
We first got wind that all may not be right at the site when a subcontractor contacted us to complain their company had not been paid for works which had already been completed. Upon further investigation of that claim, we found out there were several other such companies who found themselves in the same position. The owner of one of those companies even provided us with documents to prove he was owed close to $50,000. Others, we're told, were out of pocket for even larger sums. We've made several phone calls and other attempts to reach principals of DCK Worldwide, the main contractor on the project, but so far with no success. That company on its website, however, proudly boasts its involvement with the project. Now there are fears it has been shut down and DKC International is on the verge of pulling out of Bermuda, something we're told could happen at the end of this month, with a host of subcontractors possibly being shortchanged. Now, the company behind the multi-million-dollar effort, which includes 53 high-end residential units known as The Cove and a 79-room Ritz-Carlton Reserve Hotel, is Georges Bay Limited. We've reached out to Brian Duperoux and Kim White, two of the directors of Georges Bay Limited, to find out what's going on up there at Morgan's Point, but so far they have not responded to us.
And finally, the European Commission yesterday recommended that legal action be launched against Italy because it failed to respect EU debt rules last year and is likely to do so again this year as well as the next. This sets up a new confrontation with Italy's populist government, as we hear from France 24.
We saw an instant reaction from the two main political leaders here in this coalition government. Luigi Di Maio, the head of the Five Star Movement, wanted to assure Brussels that we are serious people and this is a serious country. But at the same time, he said, you're not going to touch our pensions. Matteo Salvini, the head of the League and the most powerful politician in the Italian government right now, said he was willing to negotiate, but he was proposing a flat tax, a tax cut to promote economic growth in this country, to create jobs and get the country moving. Now, that seems to be a very risky approach, and that's not going to make people in Brussels very happy. So a very strong reaction from both these leaders, reasonably conciliatory, but I can see that there's going to be some conflict up ahead if they stick to their guns on what they both want.
And that's news, but for the very latest, visit our website at www.barbadostoday.bb. You can also subscribe to our e-paper, email updates, or like us on Facebook. And sign up for breaking news alerts via WhatsApp. We're also on Izumi Media in bus terminals, as well as screenplay at supermarkets and gas stations near you. You can also hear us on Mix 96.9 FM and Capital Media HD 99.3 FM. I'm Carol Williams. Have a good day.